Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, The Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and medi-spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. The Minnesota Twins are looking forward to another great season in 2023, led by the return of All-Stars Carlos Correa and Brian Buxton. With the return of numerous players who were injured in 2022 and some new acquisitions, another division crown and a return to the World Series are in their sights. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm Bill Raker, host for this edition of the program. And joining me today is Tim Devine. Tim is the manager of the Dakota County Law Library, housed in Hastings, Minnesota. And Tim is here today to talk to us about the Law Library. So Tim, welcome to Access to Democracy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
You have a very interesting topic that we want to talk about, but before we get to that, let's learn a little bit about Tim and your background and what brought you to Minnesota and the work that you're doing here in Minnesota.
Yep. So I am the law library manager of the Dakota County Law Library, and I've been a law librarian for many years. I grew up in Indiana. My undergraduate degree is from Purdue University in West Lafayette, and then I received my master's degree in library and information science at Indiana University in Bloomington. And my first professional job was in South Florida. And this is a real quick story. He was getting married, and so I flew to Minneapolis for a wedding, and I met who would be my future bride. And so there I was in Florida, and there she was in Minnesota. Big difference. Long story short, I moved, and that's what brought me to Minnesota. And I'm not alone. I think there are quite a number of Minnesota gals that have brought folks here because they just don't want to move. But I love it here. Absolutely love it. We've been here since 2000, been married. But yeah, I've got the best job in the world. I work at the Dakota County Law Library, which is kind of how we met.
It was.
I don't know if you want to talk about that, but you had a reference question, and you came to my desk.
Yeah, that's how we met, Tim. Kind of an interesting encounter. I was visiting the government center there in Apple Valley, inquiring about some information on quitclaim deeds. And the person I was asking, of course, didn't have anything that they could share, but they said, you know, just down the hall is the law library. You might want to go down and check with them. That's the first time I'd ever heard that there was a law library. Yep. That was, you know, open to the public, I guess, so to speak. So I wandered in and found you sitting at your desk and introduced myself and started a conversation about the information that I was looking for. You did a little research for me. We didn't come up with a solution, but it led to a conversation and my mentioning our program Access to Democracy and ask if you would like to be a guest and come talk about the law library, because it's something I think the public knows little about, but stands to learn a lot. So that's why we invited you to be a guest.
Yeah, and I'm sure my response was, can I come and be on your program? Because I love talking about the law library to anybody that will listen. I was just saying before we went on camera here that I spoke with a group of about 20 regular public library librarians yesterday. And we talked about all kinds of things, and we can talk about some of those things in a minute. But I said my takeaway from this meeting with you and from talking to you is I want you to know that we exist. That we exist because it makes me cringe when residents come into the library and they say to me, I didn't know there was a law library. And I just, oh. But the thought of a public librarian saying that just makes me double cringe. Like, So my mission is to let everybody know and encourage people to come use us. So I'll give you kind of the short story, and if I...
Yes, start with how the law library got started. You know, well, what was behind the idea, who funds it, who uses it, what kind of resources. Just tell us all about it because we're eager to learn.
You got the right guy. All right, so we are a creature of statute. So there was legislation passed 40, 50 years ago that enabled courts, district courts, to create law libraries. They didn't have to, but if they wanted to, they could. And so then the question is, how would we be funded? So we, unlike most county entities, we're not funded by property tax dollars. In Dakota County and counties throughout the state, if you file a lawsuit or if you get a speeding ticket, you also get charged a little surcharge, and it's $5 for criminal actions and I think $10 for civil actions. But that goes to support us. The theory being that you're now involved with the criminal justice system or the legal system, and there are resources that are available to you. And so that's how I interact with a lot of folks. They're in the courthouse because they've filed a lawsuit or they're charged with something, usually just simple petty misdemeanors. But the people I see are wanting to fight it, which is their absolute right. So yeah, so we were organized. We've been around for many, many years, and we have 3 locations. So what I like to call the mothership is in the county seat in Hastings. That's where all the felony trials are. But we have a presence at North St. Paul, or we call it the Northern Service Center. It's in West St. Paul. And then where you and I met was in the Galaxie Library in Apple Valley.
Right.
And that is just, I think of it as the ideal because you have a big government complex, and then within that you have the public library, and then within that you have the law library. And so it's kind of like one-stop shopping. And we all work just hand in glove. I work with the reference librarians. They send people back to me. I work with the courts. I work with the social services people in the other part of the building. And we all know each other. We work with each other, and we can help the residents get exactly what they need. And so it's just a great synergistic relationship. So anyway, we have 3 locations. We're open Monday through Friday. And we're just there to help people. And so, you know, people will ask me, well, what do you do? And I say, anything to do with the law. I'll give you some common questions. So people will come in and they'll say, I would like to evict a tenant. And I'll show them the eviction process. I'll explain the timelines, the service requirements, things like that. 10 minutes later, somebody else will come in and they'll say, my landlord's terrible. I need to file a rent escrow action against my landlord because the landlord won't repair XYZ. So we talk about the Tenant Remedies Act, and if it's an emergency, the Emergency Tenant Remedies Act. So I'll do that, and then later on somebody will come in and they'll say their spouse just passed away and they need to get their spouse's name off the deed, so we'll talk about an affidavit of identity and survivorship. And so there are a million different forms that I know of just because I've been doing this job for a long time. But if you've never lost a spouse, which, you know, people usually only endure that once in their life, you have no clue. And you could definitely go to an attorney, but they would definitely charge you. But you can come to the law library and I'll print out the form that they need. They'll fill it out. They'll go back to the court. If the court has any issues, they'll call me up and we'll work it out. But it's a great use, I think, of the hard-earned dollars of the residents.
So Tim, let's interject right there, because I think this is a crucial message that we want to get to our viewers, is that this law library resource is available to the public at no charge.
Absolutely.
And they can come in and use those resources. They can get not legal advice from you, but they can get some direction and some help on whatever their question or their issue is. If it's a form that they need, you can help them find that. Those forms, I guess, are free as well, if you can print them off the archives.
Correct. So we provide legal information, not legal advice. So we walk right up to the line, but we don't cross it. So a lot of people don't really need legal advice. They just need legal information. So for example, an eviction. An eviction is not complicated. You don't need a lot of legal advice. This person needs to be evicted because they haven't paid their rent. I can help you with that. Here's the eviction complaint. It's from the court. We're going to print it out. I'll give you the instructions. You can sit right over here. I'm going to go back to my office. Just wave at me if you need help, and then we'll see how it goes. So I'll do that, and then while they're working at a table over there, a mother will come in and say, the dad isn't paying child support. He stopped 2 months ago. And then I'll say, okay, we can work on that, and we talk about all the papers that she can file. So, but that brings up another point. So if I can't answer it, if it goes beyond my skill set, and I think the person needs legal advice, we work very closely with Legal Assistance of Dakota County, which is a local nonprofit. And again, we work closely with them. So we'll gather people that need help, we'll screen them, we'll summarize their legal issues, we'll schedule a day when they can receive phone calls, then we forward all that to Legal Assistance of Dakota County, and they work with a lot of volunteer lawyers that are practicing in Dakota County, and a lot of them have been practicing for many, many, many years, and they volunteer out of the goodness of their heart. So we try to help the people in any way we can, and we have so many resources and so many options, and we can make referrals to hundreds of different organizations that if you haven't been evicted before, or you haven't had to evict somebody before, or another common one is divorce. People will come in and they don't know that they can self-represent. They don't have, they think that they have to hire an attorney. And it would probably be better. I kind of make the analogy where, you can do your own plumbing and your own electrical in your house just for you. You can't do it for other people, but if you want to do it yourself, that's great. And I'm very clear that, you're probably going to make some mistakes, just like you would if you're trying to do your own plumbing or electric, but if you're willing to trade your time to learn about it, you can do it. You can do it.
So you help people learn enough about the law that many times just helps them to get done what they need to do.
Yes. So I deal with a lot of folks. Okay, so the people that are really struggling financially, there are lots of resources for those folks. Legal Assistance of Dakota County, other pro bono or low bono resources. And then if you're super wealthy, well, you just hire a law firm. Easy peasy. It's kind of the big middle class that I help so much because, frankly, if I had to get a divorce, a lawyer now wants about $10,000 up front, and then they'll work off that. But, I'd be hard-pressed to come up with $10,000 cash to give to a lawyer. But I would think the same way a lot of the people that come into the law library think, I'm smart, I went to college, why should I transfer all this money from my child's college tuition fund to that lawyer's kid's college tuition fund, So I'm like, I always say, if you're willing to trade your time, you can do this. And so we print out all the instructions, we print out the forms, we get them scheduled to talk with a lawyer. I always advise people, read the instructions super carefully, take your time. Don't be overwhelmed with the quantity of papers, because there are a lot, and sometimes people get discouraged and they just throw up their arms, but take it one bite at a time. And then we just, over the course of 3, 4, 6, a year, I've worked with some people as they work their way through the system, and they come to talk to me, and I get them scheduled for another attorney call, or we print out different resources, whatever it is.
So how many people come to you to utilize these resources? Let's say in 2022, do you have a number about how many people use the library?
Yes, I do, just off the top of my head, because we have an annual Law Library Board meeting. So I report, as the Law Library Manager, I report to a 5-member Law Library Board made up of 2 attorneys, a Chief Public Defender, a judge, and a commissioner. So I meet with them once a year, and we talk about the budget, and I provide them statistics. So last year was about 5,500 reference questions, and way more than that. That number of people came in and used resources, but maybe didn't talk to me, or just made photocopies, or we have a legal kiosk where people who don't have home internet can go to their Zoom hearing. Because nowadays...
Oh, that's good to know. Let's make sure people understand that.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of folks just take high-speed internet for granted. But not everybody has high-speed internet, and if they don't have a computer with a camera, they can't do a Zoom call, and a lot of actions now are only done over Zoom. Like evictions now are only done over Zoom. There is no in-person, and that may change in the future, but the pandemic kind of showed us that we can do this, and it's kind of smoother and easier and more efficient, at least for some people, and that's what we do. So anyway, we provide this resource for people to come in. We get them logged in, we get the camera all set up. Yeah.
Is that available, that resource, that technology available in all 3 of the library locations?
It is. It is. We have the legal kiosk at all 3 locations, and they can call us and reserve it if they have a hearing, say at 1:30 on March 20th or whatever, and we will literally walk them into the room, get them all set up. For many of them, they've never been on Zoom before. They're a little nervous, talking into a camera. Yeah. But I usually, kind of joke around, relax, get them to calm down, and say, pretend you're talking to me, because I'm on the other side of the glass. But it's fun to watch, and I can't say enough. I love my job. I'm so supported by everyone at Dakota County.
Of the 3 locations, does one of them get more traffic than another? How does the number that you gave me, 5,500 or more than you said walked in to get information,
yep,
but maybe didn't talk to you, how does that break down per location? Do you know that?
Yeah. So Hastings, so it's interesting. It's kind of 3 unique kind of demographics. So in Hastings, we do the phone calls and the emails. And that's because at Apple Valley, it's almost all walk-in. So people are in the public library getting library books, or they're in the government center doing something, and they come and they find out about us, and so we get a lot of walk-ins. At our north location, at the Northern Service Center, we only have availability once a week because there just isn't enough demand to warrant 5 days a week. But there, it's mostly walk-in too. But it's really whoever thought it up. I just inherited a really good system, but whoever thought it up really did a great job in kind of organizing the way we're organized. Well, the way the library locations are, because we're one of only 2 counties in all of Minnesota that has multiple branches for a law library. That's unheard of. And so it's really helpful to have one in the southern, one in the mid, and then one in the north.
So that's a little bit unique, and you prompted the question that I wanted to ask, because this program goes out all over the state to more than 30 different markets of community TV. So those people who don't live in Dakota County but in other parts of the state, are there other counties that have this kind of resource, this kind of facility, and how do they find out about it?
Yep, sorry, I was being very Dakota County centric. I apologize. Yep, so if their county has chosen to create a law library, call it the courthouse, and it varies from county to county. Some of the outstate counties don't have much of a law library presence. So maybe they created it, but it's unstaffed. Maybe it's you know, kind of upstairs and out of the way, and they'll give you a key so that you can go up and help yourself. So it ranges from that all the way up to what we have, multiple locations. We have an FTE of 3.2 FTE, and we're very, very, very busy. And yeah, so I would encourage everybody just to call their courthouse and ask what law library presence they have.
So that's the easiest and the most direct way to find out whether or not you have this kind of resource available to you, regardless of where one lives throughout the state of Minnesota.
Yep, just reach out to the courts.
The county courts, and they will be able to assist you or direct you or answer the question about, yes, we have the resource, or no, we don't.
Yep, absolutely. And there's a state law library. So Minnesota has a state law library. They're welcome. Anybody in the state of Minnesota can call the state law library, and they'll help you as well. So if you're in one of those counties and you don't have a robust law library, or you don't have a law librarian, call up the state law library, or for that matter, call me. We never ask people where they're from.
Oh, so you don't have to be a Dakota County resident or even a Minnesota resident, I suppose.
Well, we draw the line somewhere, but we don't really get much into, you know, where do you live, and you know, we answer questions. And
so is this exclusive to Minnesota law, or do you deal with any kind of federal laws at all?
We don't. I worked for a long time at the Hennepin County Law Library in Minneapolis, and they had a sizable federal collection. We don't, because 99.5% of the people that ask us questions, it's state law.
Falls within the state jurisdiction.
Yep.
So yeah, so when I walked into your facility there and I looked around, there's shelves loaded with all of these big books. What's in all those books?
Yeah, they look pretty impressive, don't they?
They did.
Yep.
They do.
Yeah. Well, everything's migrating to digital is the answer. And, you know, in my personal life, I like books when I'm going to the public library. So if I'm going to read a mystery, I want an actual physical book. With the law, it's not like that. It's much easier to search the law digitally. And so we keep those beautiful books because we use them occasionally, but primarily the information is gathered or is accessed through a database called Westlaw, which is actually owned by Thomson Reuters. So yeah, the books are just, and I don't think we're ever going back. I think everything's going to be more and more digital. But, you know, what I tell people, and it's a little self-serving, but the best resource in the law library is not the books or the computer, it's the librarian, because that's the person that can connect you to the information you need.
So when you walk into a room, not just that particular one, with all of these law books in there, it kind of sets the stage or kind of an emotion or a mood. Is it, I'm in the presence of the law, right?
It does. It really does. It's kind of a sobering environment. I like to think of our law library as a neutral third space. So we're not the prosecutor, we're not the defense, we're not the plaintiff, we're not the defendant. You come there and it's a judgment-free zone. We'll give you access to a copier, scanner, a quiet place where you can read and work on your papers. If you have questions, you can ask me. If you just want to do your own thing, that's fine too. We offer great Wi-Fi, and it's a neat place. You don't even have to be working on a legal item. I mean, if you want to come in because you need a quiet place to study, you can come to the law library.
So if someone comes in with a question that you need to do some research and you go to your computer, you go online, are some of those databases, some of those files accessible to the public, like I could get to them from my home computer?
No.
Okay, we wanted to clear that.
Yes, and that's a very common question, because they say, you know, why am I coming here? I can just get this at home for free. And the answer is that's not possible, because a lot of people went to a lot of trouble to create these value-added legal resources. So it's not just the statute. If it's the statute you want, yes, you can get that online at home for free. But if you want the cases, if you want the statute annotated, then you're going to have to come here, because Westlaw is not going to give basically everybody that's connected to the web free access.
Of course.
So we pay a lot of money for those expensive databases, so you actually have to physically come to the law library.
So I can't do it at home for free, but I can come to your facility, your resource, and you can do it or help me do it for free.
Absolutely. And people that haven't used Westlaw before, it's an excellent resource. It's very user-friendly. And B, I'm there. So I can't do the legal research, obviously, but I can show you how it works. I can show you where to put in the terms. I can help you choose the right databases. And then a lot of it's just kind of working on it and seeing what your results are and kind of tweaking your search. Yeah, anybody that's willing to learn, I can teach them.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Westlaw, because our studios here for Access to Democracy are located in the Thomson Reuters headquarters building in Eagan, which has a very good connection to Westlaw.
Yes, absolutely.
Tim, this fascinating discussion, we've got just a couple of minutes left in today's program. Anything that you'd like to wrap up with, any additional messages or messages you'd like to emphasize again?
I would just like to encourage people to think of us when they have a legal issue, any legal issue. It could be a speeding ticket, could be a divorce, could be a guardianship, could be anything related to the law, because I like to say we can help every single person that calls or comes in. And I can say that because 99% of the people we can help, and that 1% that we can't help, we can listen. Because a lot of times nobody's listened to them. And so I invite them into my office. My staff, we're great listeners, so we'll listen to the situation, and a lot of the people that we help have been through the ringer. And so we'll patiently listen to their story, and we can usually make referrals, and we can usually help people. But if we can't, the least we can do is listen to the person and try and help support them, what they're going through.
Well, it's great to get that message out to the public, because I'm sure that many people were like me. We've never heard of the law library. We had no idea it existed, or what it was there for, or that it was available to us, that it was free, that we could access all of this information and all of these resources. It's been great having you as a guest on Access to Democracy, Tim. I think it's a terrific topic for this kind of program. And thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing that information with us. And for our viewers, remember Dakota County Law Library, or check the county court office in your county to see if there's a law library available to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
A pleasure, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.